Reason for the work of transformation. BD number 8609. September 7, 1963, you will find it increasingly more understandable that a tremendous change will have to happen, which will involve people's spiritual as well as their earthly life. For the state they have reached can only be improved by a massive intervention, and although this will take place in an earthly way, it will also result in a spiritual change. For everything has become disorderly, people's spiritual development has come to a standstill, and in many cases even a decline can be noticed, hence the earth is barely fulfilling its purpose anymore and needs to go through a transformation. Lawful order has to be restored again. All spiritual substances must be allocated the place which corresponds to their degree of maturity or development. And people must especially integrate themselves into the right order again if they are to reach the goal one day, to become perfect according to their purpose. Were you humans able to have an overview of the spiritual as well as the earthly chaos which presently prevails on earth, you, too, would realize that the only way out is a huge change, yet for the most part you are spiritually unenlightened and have no idea about your actual purpose of existence. This is already part of the low spiritual level, for you do nothing to obtain a little light as to why you live on earth. And you also reject your fellow human beings when they want to enlighten you of it. Everything has become disorderly because people's free will itself revokes the order, with the result that all still developing spiritual substances are unable to make progress, since people prevent their being of service, and yet they can only advance by way of being of service. Therefore, divine order has to be restored again one day, and everything must fit in with this law. People must voluntarily live in divine order, then they will also help the spiritual substances still bound within the works of creation to fulfill their serving function. They will be used appropriately and thereby slowly ascend too. Anyone who is spiritually enlightened, who, through a life of love, has awakened the spirit within him to life, will recognize the urgent situation and will also fully understand the work of transformation, which will shortly be carried out on earth, for he knows that there is no other way out. He knows that all spirits are in the midst of a process of return, that this has come to a halt and that something urgently needs to happen so that this process can continue with promising results. The time granted for the spiritual being's development has come to an end, and thus all that which failed when it reached the state of free will must start the process of development again according to its degree of maturity, whereas the still bound spiritual substance will enter into new forms, also in line with its degree of maturity. This, therefore, necessitates a total transformation of earth, the termination of all life, the dissolution of all external covers which still held the spiritual beings captive, and a complete redevelopment, the emergence of new creations. And this new work of creation will also be inhabited by people again who had reached full maturity on the old earth, who had remained faithful to their God and Creator even during their worst temptations through God's adversary, who remained faithful to Him until the end, until they were lifted away in order to be returned to earth again as the root of a new human race. You humans are facing this enormous transformation, and you are told time and again to prepare yourselves for it, so that you will not belong to those whose fate will be a renewed banishment into the creations of the earth. And if you only have a glimmer of faith in a God and Creator, then pray to Him that He may save you from this fate, and He will truly grant your prayer. If you are unable to believe, that is, if you are not convinced of an end, then at least take the possibility into account and live your life on earth accordingly, for the time which is still granted to you until the end will pass by quickly, and you should and still can use this time well if only you didn't reject the thoughts in you which keep reminding you of that which is proclaimed to you through your fellow human beings. Live as if the next day would be your last, and truly, you will not get lost. And only pay attention to what is happening in the world and around you, and you yourselves will realize that the only successful solution is for everything to be replaced, that a new earth has to be created, so that the spiritual development can be continued again with a favorable outcome. Amen.